Hey, in this drawing, we're going to be drawing this guy riding a T-Rex, and we're going to be talking about how to start developing your artistic process. Developing your artistic process is something that takes or can take a lot of time to develop. Artistic process is really just the way you like to make art at the current moment, both technically and creatively, and it's one of those things I think beginner artists kind of tend to be blind to or ignore. Really just because you're just getting started, right? I feel like everybody does that. I certainly did. So in this video, I'm going to go over some questions that you can ask yourself that can help you take those first steps to developing your art process, because the sooner you do it, really, I think the better off you'll be. You also, just as a bit of a disclaimer, may not be able to start making your artistic process yet if you're just starting out, because, you don't really know what you're doing. Everybody starts there, and I would say this is something that you start to do once you get your feet a little bit more under yourself in drawing and in art in general. And by extension, art process kind of helps to inform part of your art style in a lot of ways. First question is, when are you most creative? Is it the morning, the afternoon, the evening, specifically the hours of 3 to 4 p.m.? It could be, and it's important that you find this out. If you take nothing else from this video, I would say find out when you are most creative. You can figure this out by just watching yourself and being mindful of when you naturally like to draw or create. I can bet that you feel the strongest impulse during a certain time of day, and it can be a couple times a day too. For me, I am most creative in the early mornings between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m., which is typically also when I make these videos. So experiment, try even waking up early and seeing how it feels, try even staying up late and just kind of draw at all times of day and just see what feels best. See when things flow the easiest. Everybody's different and no time is wrong, even if it's like literally 3 a.m. It could be anywhere in the 24-hour period. So just experiment, find out what works for you, and it will really set you up to kind of limiting that factor of burnout and feeling like, you don't really know what you want to draw, that kind of thing. It just sets you up for success, I would say, at a really basic level. The second question is, how do you like to make images? Are you a painter, a comic book artist, or do you have more of a sketchy style? Whatever it is, this is more of a technical kind of question that you can ask yourself. Break down how you like to do things, how you like to sketch, how you like to draw, how you like to paint. Do you like to do multiple thumbnail sketches first? Do you like to sketch more loosely and then refine, or just kind of jump straight into inking or painting? Some people do that. The key here, as with everything in this video, is just to be conscious and mindful of what you do and why you do it. Really dig into these things. Most, if not all, of the things you're doing artistically and really in life should have a reason behind why you're doing them. If they don't, find one or get rid of it. Or just figure out if it's, a neutral thing, because that's a lot of stuff too. A lot of the things you do might just be kind of neutral, but if it is something wrong and you find out that it's wrong, toss it and then replace it maybe with something better, or just leave it and use that empty space to focus on other things that are more important in your process. The last question is, does your daily schedule support your art? If it doesn't, do your best to make time. I know we all have obligations, some more than others. You may have family and things, and things are just, basically more important than art in your life. Trust me, you can still make time for those things at least like 95% of the time and still do art. You don't have to have a full day, of work to do this thing. Really just an hour or two a day. For me, I usually spend between the hours of 5:30 to 7 a.m.-ish doing this pretty much every week. More time on the weekends, but really just, finding when that time period of your day is for art, especially if you're obviously not doing it full time, it is really important. For example, just all the things I do in a day. I work a full-time job, I have a wife, I have 6 pets. I also work out about 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day, on top of doing YouTube and working on the comic and hanging out with friends and family and having a social life. I don't say that to be like, look at all the things I'm doing. I say that to say there's almost always time in the day to accomplish what you want. It may just require you sacrificing some things that are less meaningful to you, or some things that you maybe shouldn't be doing in the first place. That's no judgment, just a question that you should ask yourself, right? Think of developing your artistic process as slowly chipping away at a sculpture or working on a drawing. Little by little, you carve or sketch away until you have something that works. It can take you months, it can take you years, to develop this, and it's constantly in flux. And really, your artistic process is also a life process. How do you live your life? Does your schedule cater to you being successful? Whatever that means to you. Also, once you do develop your process, it is good on occasion to kind of re-examine the way you're doing things and make sure you're still doing things the way you want to and doing things in a successful way, because as things like art style change, your process may not fit that anymore, or the way you're living your life even may not fit that anymore. So it will help you. It'll also help you this re-examination period. I usually do this about maybe once a year in the summer. It's also when I kind of get into these big study sessions of like relearning anatomy and just topping up my skill set. But doing these types of things will help to keep you from being in an artistic rut. It's not wrong to say that something is not working and change things up to make things flow better. Art is not really about working as hard as possible. It is about working hard, but it is also about working precisely and knowing your flow and your range and kind of slowly improving those things, but also just knowing what you're doing, right? Artists, I feel a lot of times, just because we're creative, can be a little bit all over the place, but it's really good to have this grounding structure in your process and in your life, just so you can be successful. Because if you just kind of do things on the whim, you won't always be as disciplined, right? And get things done as much. That's why a lot of artists don't finish projects. This is all of us, is me. Everybody's like this. You don't finish projects because you don't have like the dedicated time and the dedicated process to completing the project, right? So figuring all that stuff out first before you go tackle the things you really want to do is super important. But yeah, hope this video helped you out. Hope it was a good one. If it did, let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask them there. As usual, if you have any other topics that you want me to cover, feel free to ask in the comments also. I'll be covering more fundamental stuff probably in the next video, like shape form, the value color video, and all that good stuff. But thanks for hanging, thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you.